Everyone treats summer like it owes you happiness. Long days, pool parties, your best life on a loop. So what does it mean when you feel worse? The summer blues are real. It's why summer is one of the busiest stretches of the year for people starting therapy. Therapy is not only for when you're in crisis. Grow therapy is for all the moments when you decide you want more. More support, more clarity, more tools. Mental health isn't a destination you reach. It's something you build, and Grow makes that easier. Grow connects you with thousands of high-quality licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. The therapist you want takes your insurance on Grow. Grow accepts over 125 insurance plans. Sessions average $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/book now today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/book now. growtherapy.com/book now. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry's the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/Libsyn. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Eiffel Tower. This is Oliver G. And for this episode, I'm taking you to the 16th arrondissement of Paris, aka the 16th Kingdom. So the whole idea for this series is I go to the district, and instead of me just telling you what I like about it and what you should do, I find someone who lives there or who works there or who has a strong opinion about it, and I share it. And in this case, we're talking with Jay Swanson, who you surely know from YouTube, but he also does a lot of different projects, including a new book, which we'll talk about. But you're going to hear it. He doesn't especially love the 16th, even though he's lived there for over 10 years. And I asked him where to meet, and you were going to hear that too, but he picked a kind of unusual place too that I never even heard of, and certainly I never visited. So you're going to hear from Jay. A shout out to his YouTube channel. If you search for Jay Swanson, you're going to find it. He's on social media. He's got a thing Paris in my pocket telling you what to do in the city. And his new book, Desert of the New, which I've just finished. It is a raw and unfiltered look at his life. I mean, he's pretty brave in sharing a lot of the things that he did. So if you really want to get to know Jay, his new memoir is the ideal way to do it. But today we'll be listening to him talking about his district. How can we put it? He's sort of I don't know. He probably isn't going to be the spokesman for the 16th arrondissement, but he gives us an honest look at that too. So let's hand over the mic to Jay Swanson, but we'll start with some music from Press Maxim. Jay Swanson, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Oliver?
I'm all right. It's been a while since you've been on this podcast.
It has been a while. How long has it been, actually? I don't know. It's probably been since COVID.
Goodness me. Time to rectify it.
Time to rectify it, indeed.
I said, Jay Swanson, I said, you live in the 16th arrondissement of Paris. Tell me where to meet. And people in previous episodes have taken me to oyster bars and sitting alongside the canal, these kind of things. Why are we here and where are we and why did you choose it?
We are sitting in the cemetery at Passy, which is right next to Trocadéro. It basically borders the square at Trocadéro. It's beautiful. It's quiet. Nobody really knows that this is even here, so it's a hidden gem, but it's also a nice little metaphor for our conversation today, I'm sure.
Tell me explain the metaphor.
Well, this is known as the necropolis for the aristocrats in Paris. This is the wealthiest of Napoleon's cemeteries. So back under Napoleon I, he exhumed all the cemeteries in Paris. He closed them down, and he forced a movement outward. Not entirely a movement hour. There's still a few now that they're all in the city limits because the city's expanded, right? And this is the one that this is a very wealthy part of town. It is where a lot of aristocrats ended up being buried. It is the only cemetery in Paris with a heated waiting room.
Hang on, a heated waiting room? Do you mean for the bodies or for the people visiting?
I believe for the people visiting. The bodies you don't really want to heat.
That is one of the weirdest facts about Paris I've ever heard.
You're welcome. I'm actually, please put that on the wall. Weirdest facts that it's the weirdest fact you've heard. It's definitely a weird fact. It has the last emperor of Vietnam buried here. It's got some very interesting characters, but the metaphor being that this is kind of where Parisians go to die.
The whole district.
Yeah.
So what are you doing here? You're a young man. You've been here. Let's get the stats here. How long have you lived in the 16th?
I actually got my apartment here in 2012. And then I've been living here nonstop since 2017. So I've had access to the 16th. I've had a very exclusive inside access to the 16th for 14 years now. But I've lived here for almost a decade running.
Do you want to be buried in the cemetery?
Not this one, please. If you could bury me anywhere, I would love to be buried in Père Lachaise or underneath some random statue in Paris where people had to figure out where I was buried. Those are the two options. Otherwise, I guess you can just throw me in the Seine.
But Père Lachaise doesn't even have a heated waiting room.
Père Lachaise has more cats, though. That's something you pointed out when we got here. There are no cats walking around.
No, I want to paint the scene quickly on this place. Firstly, useless entry information. I've never been here. I didn't really know this existed. I think I found it when I started researching the 16th to come here again. And then when I asked you where you want to meet, you surprised me by saying it was here. But you get off the metro. So I'll paint the picture. You get off the metro. I was on line 6, which I don't think I've ever been on before.
Wow, okay.
I really don't think so. And quite clean, nice line, I thought. Is that fair?
Yeah, the 6 is also the iconic line that goes above ground and gets you the shot of the Eiffel Tower as you go over the river.
So maybe I have been.
You've definitely done it before because it's Bjarachem, which is the beautiful bridge that was in Inception, and so it's a really.
You don't talk about the 15th arrondissement.
And so then we can debate who owns the bridge, but yeah, then when you get out here at Trocadéro, it is true that you succumb to French signage rules, which are terrible, and so it's very hard to know exactly where to go to get into the cemetery. But that's also what kind of keeps it a hidden gem because people
get in.
They don't know how to get in. We don't even know how to get out. And then when everybody goes obviously over to Palais de Chaillot to see the view of the Eiffel Tower, and they forget about this. So even when I lived here, I walked by it dozens of times before I realized what this giant retaining wall was.
Big, ugly retaining wall.
Yeah,
you get out of the metro. Wall. It was cool to get out of the metro because the signs were like, go this way for the Musée de l'Homme, this way for the Trocadéro, this way for the Clemenceau Museum, this way for the cemetery. I was like, wow, this is packing a lot, this district. You come out straight into the middle of the wall, the retaining wall for the cemetery. You don't know to go left, right.
Yep.
Listeners, go left.
Yeah.
I went right.
If you're facing the World War, I think it's a World War I monument.
Yep.
That's on the square. Yeah, you want to go left and just go hug the wall, and you'll find it. It is beautiful. The sepulchres here are really beautiful. There's some really interesting stuff. It's very well maintained, and it's probably the only cemetery in Paris where you're going to get the Eiffel Tower looming over it all as if it was a tombstone of its own. So it's a very beautiful place to come. It's quiet, like I said. I do actually like this cemetery a lot. I haven't been here in a while, so it's very fun to come back for me. But that is kind of the thing is like for me, most of what I do, both socially and for work and everything else, is not in the 16th. So I've explored the whole thing at one point or another, but I don't really spend much time here outside of when I'm sleeping and working at my desk.
Fair enough. And we're going to get into how you, your thoughts on the 16th. But two things occurred to me. First, to finish painting that picture, we're sitting on a bench sort of at the far end of the cemetery. We can both see the Eiffel Tower looming over. Yeah. It is pretty impressive. It's a very impressive view.
It is very impressive.
I think people would love this.
I think, if you want to come,
files.
This is a good one I was thinking I should do something about that. Well, I want to do a series on the cemeteries of Paris here soon. And so that might be part of the reason why I thought about this when you asked, because it was already on my mind. But if you're a photographer especially, the perspectives you can get here with all the different foreground elements in these crosses and in these giant tombs with the Eiffel Tower popping up in the trees behind, it's incredible, yeah.
And if you're brand new to Paris and you don't have the sort of geography of it, there is a river between us and the Eiffel Tower. It's quite far away, but it does seem huge. Huh?
There are a lot of people that think that I live by the Eiffel Tower. My sister insists to this day that I live at the Eiffel Tower, but I actually live well over a kilometer away from the Eiffel Tower. It's just a very tall building that looks way closer than it is.
I love that you're in the kilometers now.
I was going to say miles, but your audience, I feel like well, actually you have a lot of Americans in your audience. I think it's exactly 1 mile away from where I live, but it's 1.5 kilometers, 1.6.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to point out is you and I sitting here in the cemetery now, you and I have done a lot of unusual things together.
We have done a lot of unusual things together. Once we've crossed the city both south to north and east to west, I believe.
I was also thinking of the Macron's place.
That's true. We went to the Élysée. The first time we both went to the Élysée, we just happened to be going on the same day. Yeah.
I don't know why we're talking about the 8th arrondissement.
It's not here. Yeah, it's in the 8th.
Let's get into the 16th. You, this whole series, I've been talking to people who love their districts.
Yes.
And when I was in the 18th, Satania Dakers was like, you would have to drag me kicking and screaming out of this district.
Yeah.
You don't seem to care for the 16th very much.
I've been pretty open in public about that. Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of interesting because this series I'm doing, it's not about telling people where to go. I mean, yeah, we're going to chuck in some places that people should see or avoid, but I'm also interested in the life of a person here. And what is it that you don't find so appealing about it?
I think that we can start with what is nice about it because it is well loved by a lot of the people that live here. I think that is where we're going to end up wandering into as well, because a lot of it comes down to the culture of the area. But
maybe we should start with what it is. What is this district? It's huge.
Yeah, the 16th is massive. So it shares the Étoile, or the Arc de Triomphe, with the 17th and the 8th. So there's an axis that splits there. It owns a huge portion of what is referred to as the Golden Triangle. So Billionaires Row kind of a thing, where there's a lot of property that's been purchased by different governments and different very wealthy people. The 8th is famously the least populated, or least densely populated neighborhood in the city, or arrondissement in the city as a result. If we're going all the way back to arrondissement, right, that is a municipal district. And the 16th is on the far west side of the city. It technically encapsulates the Bois de Boulogne, one of the two major parks that are outside the walls, or the peripherique of Paris. And it is home to a ton of embassies. A lot of doctors' offices are out here. It is a mixture of old and new money. It depends on who we're talking to. I think a lot of the culture that affects it and that makes it feel a little bit harder to live in sometimes is the new money side of it. But it does have a lot of old money here. And it was constructed, there's a lot of post-Haussmannian construction that resembles the Haussmannian style, so it really still feels like an extension of that. But there is some modern, like we can see behind us, bordering this cemetery. There is a lot of construction from the 1960s as well that stands out quite like a sore thumb. So it's got big, broad boulevards, lots of museums. It is. People say it's clean, but it also probably still suffers the most from the dog poop epidemics that have struck Paris.
I thought that had kind of died out.
Yeah, so it is better than it used to be. It's way better than it used to be. But if you talk to some of the woman that runs the flower shop over here, as soon as they pietonized, or they pedestrianized the street next to them, the dog poop epidemic for them exploded. So it just kind of depends on where you are in the area. But it is much better than it used to be. So back in the day when I was a tour guide, we would joke when we were talking about the different neighborhoods, and we would talk about how, as soon as you tell people what arrondissement you're from in Paris, people judge you immediately. And I would joke that people assume that I must be a little old lady with a small dog, because that's what people think of when they think of the 16th. Gives you a little bit of a nutshell of what it is. It does have some nice markets, and so the best rotisserie chicken in the city, I think, is over here. But
where? Just in general?
On Bellefeuille, there are two different butchers that are right next to each other. They both do rotisserie chicken, and they're always competing with each other. And genuinely, I've gone to other butchers in this neighborhood for their rotisserie chickens that are bigger, that are whatever. They're never as good. So that it has that going for it. But the 16th, then it's
the chicken is the one thing.
Oh my God, I love the chicken here. Maybe I have another friend who lives in the neighborhood, and that's what we always bring to a party, because that's all we have. But we're on a hill as well, so people forget that among the hills, I think there are 5 hills in Paris. This is probably the one the fewest people are aware exists until they try to ride their bike up here. And then we watched the Tour de France this week. That's up part of that hill up to up to Étoile, which is what makes it so dangerous for them when they're coming back down on the cobblestones. And similarly, we're on a part of that hill over here overlooking the Seine.
But so you're saying good things. Well, not really. You're saying a mix. But what are the things? What are the things that frustrate you As a man in Paris.
As a man in
I
Paris.
say young man. I don't know if we're young. Are we still young? I think I said young man earlier.
It's a relative term. I think we're in that weird place where to the youths we're old and to the old we're youths. So like there's...
I talked to a 12-year-old the other day, and she said, she goes, I like old music. And I was like, oh yeah, like what? She goes, stuff from 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like,
yeah. Oh, so you're really into Pharrell. Cool. I guess that's not 2 or 3 years back, but still.
I think she said Sabrina Carpenter. And I was like, that's what
that's old stuff. We're getting back into the oldies right there. I think, well, it's hard. So I think, honestly, from like a spiritual standpoint, one of the hardest things is to be somebody who's really working to scrap a life together. When I moved here, I was on the verge of going bankrupt. My whole life was crumbling, and I just got very lucky to get the visa I got. And I was doubly lucky that I had secured this apartment. For those that are curious, I got a free apartment in Paris because I volunteered on a hospital ship in West Africa for 4 years. And one of the doctors I was working with, his mom has an apartment here. She took pity on me when I was in Paris and couldn't find a place to live. I was literally sleeping on some guy's floor. He would kick me out overnight sometimes, so I was like borderline homeless and had no money and didn't know what to do. She took pity on me and let me use her maid's chamber, which she'd never let anyone use. It had sat empty for 25 years. She had to get the electricity up to code before she let me in. And then it was a very temporary thing at the time, but then by the end of it, she was very happy to have me around. She's turning 90 this year, and she was just like, it's yours until I die. Like, I'm very happy for you to be here. And she meant it. And so when I came back on the verge of bankruptcy with nothing in my name, heavily over-leveraged, just kind of failing on every front, I moved into this space and at least had a place to land. And so that's how I ended up in the 16th. What I don't know if I was fully aware of then, and what I'm very aware of now, is that living in the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest neighborhoods in the country, as somebody who has nothing to their name, does some psychological damage over time, because every time you step outside your door, you are surrounded by people who have not wanted for money their entire lives. And so the culture is inherently different when on Sundays they're bringing out $1 million cars to just rev down the street. And, you know, just the attitude is different. The approach to life is different, so much different. So it's that, I don't think I realized that's why culturally I never felt like I fit in this neighborhood. And now I'm very aware of that. And it can be frustrating, especially in this era where we see the gap between those who have and those who have less or have not growing exponentially. I think I live in a material reminder of that every year. Le Monde released a heat map of like wealth in the country this year, and you can see my street on that map. Like I live on the side of the street that's slightly less wealthy than the one that's about to burn through the page. And so I think that's kind of at the root of it. Like that's kind of at the root of why I struggled to be here. And there are a lot of other reasons that then trickle down from that, but I think that's the kind of the root of it.
And what would you say to people who go, just move to the 11th then?
I'm going to, is the plan. I mean, I want to move east for sure. I spend all my time over there. My friends are over there. So much of my work is over there.
I feel 11th would suit you.
Yeah, the 11th would be good.
10th?
10th is what I've said in my videos. It would be ideal because I would love to be anywhere from like Faubourg Saint-Denis over to like Saint-Ambroise. I think it's like, I refer to it as the golden croissant, the 9th, 10th, and the 11th, right? Like if you can find yourself, and it kind of looks like a croissant when you highlight it on a map, very loosely if you use your imagination and squint, but even up to Jourdain in the 19th, over into the 20th a little bit, like that. The Belleville area is like,
it's cool. It's changed an awful lot.
It's amazing, and it's diverse, and it's got so much great food. And
hang on, back to this district. Stop sneaking out. Stop sneaking out of here.
You asked. So
I know.
To answer your question, a lot of it has been financial, and a lot of it has been that I have had quite the road, and a lot of it comes down to self-worth. So what I've really come to recognize now is that I've always been more willing to put money into my business, to paying other people, to trying to grow what I'm doing. And I've never valued myself. I've always paid everyone else first, and I've never paid myself. So there's never been money left over to move. And I've always used the free rent. I mean, it's hard to leave free rent. You tell people you have a free place in Paris, and they either want to like ask you how you did it or immediately like throw you in front of a bus. Like it's a very rare thing. So to walk away from that, I think is also like a very serious thing. So I've always taken the money that I could be spending on rent, and I've invested that into everything that I do for work now.
Well, it's not easy, as I can attest, to do this kind of this line of work.
This line of work, yeah, it can be very feast or famine. It can also, it's just I think we're getting to a place where I'm close to being stable, right? And I do think that a lot of it comes down to now being like, okay, the next goals have to be paying myself more and moving out of this neighborhood. Absolutely. It would be good for my social life, my mental health, my daily life. my commute time, I spend at least an hour commuting every day.
That's a good point about this district, because when I came here, I live fairly central in the 12th. Yeah. But it was quite a way to come. And I text you, I was like, it feels like I'm on holiday. Not just because there's tourists everywhere, but because even, this is going to sound weird, but when I was setting to come out here, I realized how weird this sounds, but I was like, I'm going to check that I've got everything in my pockets because I'm going way out there now. Which isn't really...
No, but that's the Parisian attitude about it. And I do think that people that don't live here don't understand that, like, the 16th is effectively, this is going to get me in trouble, but the 16th is effectively more of a suburb than a part of central Paris. And both in the mentality and in the distance, because even though we have like line 9, line 2, line 6 to get us out of here, and line 1 goes through, well, line 1 borders it at least, you know, like you are a minimum 30 minutes away from anything central. And I tell my therapist, she's not far from Saint-Lazare. I joke, but I'm not joking, that like if I can move east, she's the farthest west I will ever go, unless I'm being paid. Because I do get genuinely frustrated crossing the 8th on my bike, between the cobblestones and the attitude, the way that there's a lot of things that happen between here and there, right? And so the 16th, I have found a lot of love. What opened the 16th to me more than anything was getting a dog. Then I started finding very nice people. That and Noir moved in. So we started getting some coffee shop culture. And so I did find some people who were into specialty coffee early. Now that's changed. Like specialty coffee is kind of like the hip thing to do, I guess. So the spirit of it's definitely changed over here. But I found some lovely people through that and through my dog. And it helped for sure. Because
Interesting. I wonder do you find other people who are similar to you that you can, let's say, grumble with about all these rich people?
Yeah.
Or do you really feel alone in that?
No, there are people here that I think the people that work here very much understand it.
Yeah, but I mean, are other people who also manage to find a cheaper place, or are they just not here? Do you feel isolated because of that?
Yeah.
You haven't got another, I don't know, foreigner around the corner who's like, man, I hate this place, it's so expensive.
One, yeah, and they moved, unfortunately. There was a couple that were living here for a while. Some of my favorite people that I met through the coffee shop, they just happened to be there. And they're doing well for themselves, but they worked for it, right? And their perspective, the places that they lived and everything else is very similar, and they saw it. And we had moments, there's stuff like the common, like the coffee shop that I met them at, which can remain nameless for to protect the innocent, although the people that used to work there aren't there anymore. They struggled a lot with it because out of all the places they could work in Paris, it was notoriously the hardest for customer service because of like the sense of entitlement, to the point that like that friend, an American who's married to an Argentinian, I was meeting her for coffee once, and she claimed the bench right by the door and was sitting there waiting for me. And this woman came in on her phone, threw her jacket on my friend without getting off her phone, and walked over to order her drink, and then came back and was more or less offended that my friend had somehow stolen the space underneath her jacket. And that's an extreme, but those are the kinds of things that do happen here, I feel like, much more frequently. And I do feel like as soon as I get to the 18th or to the 11th or to the 12th or any of those places, I get out of the metro or I get off my bike and I feel like I can breathe in a way that I don't feel as comfortable here, because the attitude changes completely. And there are kind people here, there are lovely people here, but there are also people here that, like, I can tell you a lot of stories, like the jacket incident, that there's a pattern here that makes it feel much less welcoming.
Let's I want to talk about your new book as well, but let's finish with something on the 16th.
Sure.
Which is, let's say you got a friend coming from abroad.
You got a friend in me.
They want to see things in the 16th for some reason. They're stuck.
Sure.
They're stuck here. They're not allowed to leave the borders.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you're like, here's some things to do.
Yeah.
Just reel them off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where we're starting is great. And this, I would classify this for visitors much more highly. You have, just like you were saying here at Chaillot, you have multiple museums. The Architecture Museum is one of my favorites, partially because it's like a tour of France without leaving the city. You get to see the facades of so many Gothic cathedrals and all these other things. But it also has amazing photos of the Eiffel Tower through its very tall windows. So if you're a photographer, phenomenal. It has the Modern Art Museum just down the hill.
Oh, yeah.
Palais de Tokyo is here. I love that museum. I'm not as big of a fan of is it the Gallerina? I always forget how to say the name of the fashion museum across the street. That structure is gorgeous. Depending on what is on offer, like if it interests you, it might be good. It's a very small space inside, but the cafe they have next to it, also phenomenal spot to sit, have a drink, and look at the Eiffel Tower over a beautiful green lawn. That is gorgeous. If you go to Ranelagh, and there's the Monet collection is right next to it.
Is that how they say it?
Ranelagh. I think it's Ranelagh. Yeah, I think so.
Is it a Scottish word? I always
I
see
think
that.
I think if I recall, it's another Napoleonic battle location.
It's like
but I don't remember.
RANELAGH or something.
Should have looked this one up before we started talking.
I go deep, man.
Yeah, he goes deep with the hard-hitting questions. The park out there is actually really nice. It's a great place to stroll. If you have a dog, it's a great spot to illegally play with your dog.
What about the Bois de Boulogne?
Bois de Boulogne, I would say, is nice around the lakes. And if you have kids and you want to go for like the summer carnival or festival or whatever you want to call it with the rides and all that stuff, then it's really nice. I wouldn't really go too far into it. It's infamous for the prostitution and drug use. Do not let your dog run off leash too far into the woods because they will discover piles of things you do not want them consuming. And if you're a woman, definitely be careful. I have friends who've run through that park and been harassed by the guys that are hanging out in the woods. So I don't want to fearmonger, but the Bois de Boulogne is kind of sketchy. So
get to the lake.
If you get to the lake, you're fine. And the lakes are very, very nice. They do have some boats you can take out.
Not to mention the Louis Vuitton thing.
And the Louis Vuitton Foundation is out there. It is, honestly, it's grown on me a lot. I didn't really like the building initially, but it's beautiful. And the Jardin d'Acclimatation is way better than what I just described as far as the carnival. So there's an actual amusement park out there that is really nice.
So high on my list.
It's really nice. I went out there because I was making a video on what to do in Paris with kids. I'd never been out there before because obviously not my thing and I don't have kids, but I was really impressed. It's beautiful. It feels old world. I would definitely go there with kids if you have kids. So that's a huge one. There's also like the racing at the Hippodrome, right? There's horse racing out here if you want to go see that. That's really fun.
Painting a pretty good picture of this district.
Yeah, it's a great place to visit. And there are fun things to do. And I think especially for families. And I do think that's a big part of the appeal. When I say it's more like a suburb, I think for people that want quiet, they want space, they do want some distance. Like me, even if they like going out, they're willing to travel a little bit to go home at night and have something a little quieter. You're not guaranteed quiet depending on where you are. Like if you're near Trocadéro, there are still protests. There's still some loud stuff that happens. But it does have that. And so for me personally, it's not my thing. I think for a lot of people, it is a great place to live. So when I'm negative about it, a lot of that comes from me just being frustrated with my own life situation. But I do think that, like I was saying, it's also a difference between being surrounded by, like if you go to the 11th, you're surrounded by people who are really trying to create something new. There's small boutiques. There are artisans. There are people that are really trying to create something. And when you walk around here, you're in Passy, you're on Victor Hugo, it's big box retail. It's like luxury brands. It's big stuff that like has no heart in it.
People might not realize this. People say it all the time how there's loads of different villages here.
Yeah,
but it's so true.
It's very true.
And I often, when I get out in a different district, I'll say to my wife, I'll be like, "Do you see all the people here are different? Just in my district, my district, the 12th, families and young kids and people. I don't know.
It's lovely. Yeah,
yeah. And then you get to even the Marais or something.
Yeah."
Third district, it's like it's just different.
Night and day. But then also the third has changed so much. Like
we're doing it again, Jay.
We're doing it. Yeah. Sorry, I can talk about Paris all day. I love this city so much. And what I said before we started recording that I feel like is important to say here as well is that, and I've said this before and I'll say it a million times, no matter where I live, as long as I'm in Paris, I'm happy. So even though I'm in the 16th and it's not ideal, I am so lucky to be here. This is the only place in the world I want to be. I love this city to death, including the 8th and the 16th. I just might want to spend less time in them. But otherwise, no, I'm very, very happy. I'm intramuros, so I can't, what could I complain about,
You just summed up your sort of outlook on Paris and life, which I assume is something that's included in your new book as well.
It is.
Desert the New.
Yes.
Can you tell me what this book is about before you hand it over to me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I bought a copy.
And I'm giving you this one, even if the other one's on the way.
Is that true?
I don't know. I texted, I'll give it to you. I texted Emily, though, just to be sure. I wanted to, like, are we missing a book? Emily's my assistant for outside.
She might be listening.
I hope she's listening. I love Emily.
She might be in the cemetery.
She might be in here, like waiting to jump us. She is a life changer. But Desert of the New is a follow-up to my first memoir, which was called Sea of the Unknown. So I kind of carried the same metaphor forward, but this one has much less of the strong metaphor that was in the first one. This one is a little bit more direct, and it's a lot about setting up a life in France. So the first one is like making it to France. I've always wanted to live here. And then that was focused in on Paris once I finally made it to Paris. And I was like, oh no, this is where I always wanted. This is where I wanted to be. And I felt at home. So the first book was written and published in COVID. Like, it was written before COVID, but then published like as lockdown happened, basically. And in rereading it, just a year and a half ago or so. I'd never reread it, and I read it again. And the first thing I thought was like, wow, I was actually really proud of it. I was like, this is a good book. But the second thing was like, there are some huge holes here. The main one being like, I had not started going to therapy yet. And I had yet to start really facing the things I was running from. And I think a lot of people that move abroad, whether or not they're aware of it, are running from something, even if they think they're running to something. And it's not until you stop running that whatever's behind you catches up. And so much of this book is about that, but it's also a book about what it's like to live here, what it's like to be a creator here. There are vignettes in here about the apartment at the end of the hall. In the building that I live, there's an apartment at the end of the hall that has the most harrowing stories attached to it. And it's a fun arc that actually follows with my experience here very closely. So it's a little bit of a peek inside what does it actually look like to live here in Paris, to build a business, to build a community, and to build a better sense of self in the midst of all of that.
And where can people get it?
You can grab it anywhere books are sold. We'll be making sure the paperbacks are available for order on Amazon and everywhere here soon. We have a few copies left. You can order directly from my website, jayswanson.me. That's jayswanson.me, and it will probably ask you are you sure you wanted to go there? And the answer is yes. Or you can just Google it.
We'll put links in the show notes.
Links in the show notes would be great. But yeah, it's been really fun, and we launched it in June at Point Éphémère, which you were saying you did an event there way back in the day. We had a good 150, 200 people show up, and despite the heat, which was really fun. And honestly, I'm really proud of it because I think ultimately it was the book I needed. I sat down to write it. It was very much the book I needed to process things like my mom dying a year ago and a bunch of other stuff. But much more than just that. But then when we refined it, and Richard Bilke, who edited it, really made it into something very, I think, more readable for people. I think it's an important book for a handful of people out there who have gone through something similar. So that, to me, as long as those 5 people find the book, then it has done its job.
Awesome, man. I'm excited to read it, and thank you for walking me through not just this district, but this cemetery as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say if you are looking for a hidden gem in Paris, you like cemeteries, you like quiet green spaces, and you like epic views of the Eiffel Tower, do not skip Passy Cemetery.
Voila. Merci, Jay Swanson, and I'll see you next time.
See you in 5 years?
No, sooner than that.
All right, we'll up our cadence.
So again, music was by Press Maxon. That was his take on Douce France, which kind of fits nicely, just like the cemetery fit quite nicely. Again, Jay's book, Desert of the New. Check it out and check him out. He talks about everything in Paris and beyond on his YouTube channel. As for me, I got a YouTube channel too. I don't talk about it very much, but you can check that out. There's some videos over there that are worth seeking out. But if you want to get more out of the Eiffel Tower, why not become a Patreon member, become a Substack member, book a walking tour, or just listen to more episodes. Next week will be the 15th arrondissement with a Venezuelan / American / Italian influencer / content creator. A lot of slashes going on. Talking about her district, the 15th. It'll be Gabriella Hafner if you want to get a head start. And that was also recorded on location in the 15th arrondissement. So more from me next week. Thanks for listening and have a lovely week wherever you are. Au revoir.
Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.